That Davis Show, and I'm lucky enough to be joined by Chicago Tribune White Sox beat writer LaMond Pope. Make sure you follow him at LaMond Pope. It's been a little minute, LaMond, but it's baseball time, so definitely have to bring you back. How have you been so far?
Fantastic. Just got back from Arizona. Got to see a whole lot of spring training action. That was a lot of fun, and getting ready for that regular season to begin.
Listen, how was Arizona and I know down there, because the executive producer of this show now lives in Arizona, that the mask restrictions are gone and they're doing whatever in Arizona. But when it comes to your interaction with the team, how was that compared to 2019? Like, is it getting closer? Or I know we're still on Zoom, but is there any type of interaction you're getting with the players or necessarily the coaching staff?
We're able to get a little closer, but yeah, like you said, still, no locker room, no clubhouse conversations with guys, which is something that I really miss. That's a chance when you kind of get to build those relationships, the one-on-one opportunities. So that still is incredibly missed. But at the practice fields, like they had us sort of roped on off. But the guys were able to come and go. We were able to kind of communicate with them through that standpoint. So we're getting a little closer to being able to get back with the guys. But yeah, still a little ways to go.
And just on the last part with that, moving on in the season, do you see yourself and the other reporters or are they going to travel to opponents' fields? Sorry, I'm stumbling. Are you going to be on the road as much as perhaps you would 2 years ago? I know last year, and to a certain degree, it's cool. You don't have to go anywhere. We can Zoom and do these interviews. But do you expect to be on the road this season?
I mean, I hope. I anticipate. Yeah, I think they'll open that up a little bit more. Yeah, last year there were some restrictions from that standpoint. From the standpoint if we went to a state that was a hot zone, then when we came back, we would have to quarantine for the 10 to 14 days, and we wouldn't be able to get on into the ballpark. And so I think those rules will be a little more relaxed now. Obviously, there's not as many states in that red zone, in that hot zone. So that's a plus for everybody involved. But also, the fact that they're going to have fans back in the stands, that's another thing where it's not going to be I find it's going to be a tough situation to be like, well, they're not going to quiz every single fan. Were you in California? Were you in?
Right.
So with that sort of being the mindset from our perspective, I think that those things are going to open up a little bit more. We'll be able to do a little more traveling from that standpoint. Looking forward to it for sure.
Right. Were you in Florida? Yes or no? Well, look, the big thing, and we kind of talked about it right before we came on live. It's Eloy. Last week was a gut punch. I think if he was a middling player, to be like, we like him, but to have that bat and the importance of that bat, let alone the character of the levity that he brings to the team, what are we supposed to take away from Eloy being gone? With the amount of talent on this team, I guess I should ask you. Definitely there'll be a hole there, but they should still be able to produce this season if the goal is to contend with the amount of players and the amount of talent they have in that rotation and with their everyday players.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with Eloy. Just a tremendous loss. Second in the team last year in home runs and in RBIs, and just someone, potential MVP type candidate. Hitting coach Frankie Menichino said earlier in the spring that here's someone that can hit 340 if everything started clicking. This guy has all the tools and can go from pole to pole, just do about everything with the bat. With the glove, it's always been a little bit of an issue, and then again, that was the situation on Wednesday. He's going on back for a ball that was pretty much, he made a great, the effort was
gone.
The ball was gone, right? Yeah. So losing Eloy, losing that bat, tremendous blow. But this is a team that still has a ton of offensive talent. You have the 2020 MVP in Jose Abreu. You have the 2019 batting champion in Tim Anderson. You expect Yohan Moncada to be kind of back to his 2019 form after 2020, dealing with the after effects with COVID, and so that's you expect a little bit more of a boost from him. You expect from year 1 to year 2 to see those strides made for Luis Robert. You expect someone along the lines with Nick Madrigal as well. Those advancements from that first season to that second season. Yasmani Grandal, one of the top hitting catchers in all the game as well. And so the talent is still there, but it is a huge loss from that standpoint. And then we haven't even gotten to a couple guys that they're going to probably expect to kind of help out with that contribution as well. Someone like an Andrew Vaughn, he's they've been testing him out in left field a little bit. He's going to be between left field and DH. He was going to be in that competition for the DH spot regardless. And then Zach Collins, he's had a great spring, and so he's going to get some at bats there in DH when he's not backing up as catcher as well. And so there's a situation where the talent is there offensively. Obviously the pitching staff, you have 3 guys in the starting rotation that earned Cy Young Award votes last season with Lucas and Dallas and Lance Lynn. Dylan has looked fantastic so far. Carlos Rodon's looked fantastic as well. And so those are your 5 starters. And then the bullpen, like lights out, super talented.
Nasty.
Led by Liam Hendricks, another guy who received some Cy Young votes as well. And so, the pieces are still there, but there's no doubt that Eloy is a huge loss for these next few months.
And look, some of the guys that I definitely want to get into in a second about replacing Eloy, just adding offensive production is Andrew Vaughn and also Zach Collins. But one last thing on Eloy, that Davis show with LaMond Pope, follow him at LaMond Pope. Listen, let's be honest. So we're talking DH now moving forward when he comes back. If that bat, as you just said, can produce 340 pole to pole, what's the use of continuing to risk it when he continues to get hurt out in the field?
Here's someone he doesn't want to be DH.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. Here's someone who wants to be out in the field, who's putting in the effort, who's putting in the work, and so it's just sort of been a steady thing of there's some signs. There's some signs this spring where he was making some strides from that standpoint, but that was just a play that was it was an effort play. Maybe a little bit too much of an effort play. And so it's just going to have to be a situation where, the rule has to be, hey, Eloy, sort of like what Andrew was talking about the other day, if the ball is hit to the line, I'm going to get that. Anything else is
you can have it, Lewis.
You
can have it. Yeah, I totally agree. Look, and speaking of Andrew Vaughn, I think most Sox fans have just been opining to have him finally come up. We know he was in Schaumburg last year, but now you're adding a lot to his plate. We already know he's a very mature hitter. All right. And I know that can somewhat extrapolate to the outfield, but we're talking about a guy that really, as far as in the big show, hasn't played in the outfield. You can do whatever you can do in spring training and whatever in Schaumburg, but not in the big show. How do you look at his season? How did you initially look at his season and getting as many at bats as he was going to receive in the DH position? Because even if you're a prodigious hitter like he seems to be that he'll be, you're still going to go to slumps. And you're still going to have guys that are kind of they're crafty vets and they're going to know how to get you before you can kind of adjust after they adjust to you. So how did you expect his season to go? But now, added to the fact that he's going to be in the outfield, basically not his position. He was a first baseman in college. How do you think that's going to affect his overall play?
Right. Andrew said church and state. That's the mindset that you have to have. When you have to separate them. The outfield is the outfield and hitting is the hitting, and you have to have that kind of different mindset and not let one impact the other. And that's sort of been his approach as far as that mindset, that smart mindset has been one of his strengths. And when he goes into those type of slumps, like every single major league player goes through, to have that sort of frame of mind and have that winning sort of attitude, that's going to go a long way in helping him out this season. And that's another situation with Eloy. I think that there wasn't going to be as much pressure, and that's one of the things that all the guys really, not just Andrew or not just Zach, have to kind of fight against. It's the entire lineup. You can't try to do too much. The natural instinct is like, man, we're missing Eloy. We're missing this big bat. I'm going to need to do something, do a little extra to kind of help on out the offense. No, you got to stay within yourself. Do you. You do you, and then kind of let the chips fall the way they can, and just let the talent work its way on out. So I think the plan. He earned the spot as the designated hitter. He had a terrific spring, and so this added wrinkle of him getting some looks out in the outfield. We don't know how often it's going to be. They're kind of debating even today. Larissa was like, well, he might be the starting left fielder for opening day, but it sounds like more likely it's going to be the DH, and they're going to have Lurie out on left field, and then obviously eventually they're going to get Adam Engel back, and so that'll be another outfield option, and so that might alleviate some pressures of him trying to continue to have to learn left field when you do have those kind of other options to help on out in the outfield as well.
And look, sticking with the outfield, because you would think when Adam Engel is healthy that he's going to get that spot. Maybe they'll move Adam Eden to the left and play Adam Engel in right. But we were looking at it in the offseason as basically those two platooning, somewhat depending on lefty and righty who's pitching that day. What's going to go on with the depth now? Because outside of just Eloy and his hitting, and I mean he's not a great defender, but still you're thinner out there because you didn't expect you're going to be using Adam Engel perhaps on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean that was one of the issues for sure. I mean, you're right now the roster the way it's projected out. I mean, again, you're going to use Garcia at times out there. He has several experience. He can play just about anywhere but first base. I remember talking to him during spring training. He was like, you know what? I've been practicing that third. I've been practicing that short. I've been practicing that second. I haven't been practicing that first yet, but that's coming. so he kind of laughed about that. It was like, no, that's all Jose. But here, and then he has the experience in all three outfield positions as well. So you knew that, you know, with the projected outfield of it being Eloy, Robert, and then Eaton, and then with Ingo as sort of that super sub, and then also with Garcia as someone else you can plug on in there. Those are going to be the five, you know, overall from the jump. You add in this wrinkle now, you know, Billy Hamilton's going to be in the mix a little bit, you know, defensive, particularly late inning defensive replacement. You know, he's a guy that, you know, obviously has the wheels, has the experience.
Speed.
Yes.
And consistency days.
Yeah. I remember, like, I covered a long time ago, I worked in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I covered the minor league baseball team out there. And so I remember him from Dayton when he was just going on and on, just stealing base after base after base after base. And it's just so so that's going to be an added element that they can utilize late in games as well, you know, on the base pass and then defensively as well. So that's going to be, you know, one of their options right now. But the depth is definitely an issue, you know, and that's why they have to hope that in Ingo's case, you know, the projection is 2 to 4 weeks, and we'll see where that you know, right now that will land probably at the end of April.
That Davis show right now with Chicago White Sox beat writer LaMond Pope. Make sure you follow him at LaMond Pope. Listen, let's go to the backstop. We lost James McCann this offseason, as he should. He should have went out and gotten a job that he deserved from how he had produced the last couple of seasons. But a guy that, you know, I think a lot of White Sox fans have somewhat been down on, initially one because he wasn't looked at as being a defensive catcher, but he was looked at as being more of a hitter, is Zach Collins. And it seems like his defense is somewhat improving. But how much are we going to end up depending on Zach Collins now? Because there's going to be more at-bats at the DH position that you didn't expect, because, you know, you may have Andrew Vaughn out there playing left. So what are we looking at with Zach Vaughn as being the backup catcher moving forward, and how much has he improved defensively compared to seasons past?
Yeah, he's improved tremendously defensively. You know, the backup catcher was one of the
strengths.
And it was one of the storylines, you know, entering spring. You know, they had Collins, they had Lucroy, they had Mercedes, and, you know, but when we talked to Rick Hahn earlier today, he said, you know, the plan all along was to give one of those younger guys. They were going to be that guy. You know, most of us thought, well, maybe, you know, you had in a Jonathan Lucroy. He has all the experience in the world. Now the plan from the jump was, you know, let's give one of these young guys, if they earn it, they're going to be that guy. And both. All three played really well, but, you know, the Collins was, you know, showed the ability to go the other way with the ball, and the defense, like you said, that was the big thing. The improvements that both Zach and Yermin were able to make defensively, you know, make it a little more of an easier decision when they were able to go ahead and release Jonathan Lucroy today. So it's a situation where, you know, Zach's going to get the opportunity to be that first person in line to back on up when Yasmani needs to day on off, and he's been pretty good behind the plate, and he's been very good at the plate.
Let me ask you this too: with Yasmani, I mean, not with Yasmani, with Mercedes and with Zach, how's the interaction with calling the game, and are they getting shook off, or are they being allowed to call the game, and how has Yasmani affected those guys for being such a crafty veteran?
Oh yeah, I mean the influence not only Yasmani, but when Lucroy was there as well. I mean those guys have been providing tips, and this is why he also added in Jerry Nairn as one of the new coaches. You know, here's someone who's been able to work with the catchers, and he's made a huge help from that standpoint. We had a chance to talk to the pitching coach Ethan Katz earlier today, and he praised the effort that both Collins and Mercedes have been as far as getting them involved in calling games and doing all those little things as well. And so it's been a big team effort, and those guys have been able to come on through from that standpoint. Now we're going to have to see, can they carry on over to the regular season?
And look, Yohan has looked like Yohan from 2019. You mentioned it earlier, as far as, and I had to tell this to people last year when people were what's up with him. I was like, he had COVID, right? Like, we don't even know anything about this. And people, why isn't he legging it out? And I'm like, dude, he had COVID. Like, you have to think about, he may not be the same guy. So it seems like he is the same player, and we can expect for him to be that lightning rod, because clearly they need it, and they can't have 2020 Yohan Moncada if they really plan on contending. Is it the sexy video? Like, what's going on? How's he getting this going like this?
Yeah, Jose said, we asked Jose about that video, and he said, "Well, yeah, I told him that he's going to have to make a song for me so I can use it as a walk-up song." So we'll see how that all goes. But yeah, I mean, McConnell he was very honest from the jump. Like he was like, you know what, this thing wrecked me. I mean, it impacted me all season long. I remember a situation when they were playing against Cleveland, and he was running, and he scored a run, and then like they showed him in the dugout, and he was getting toweled off. He was getting fanned off because it just like he was just exhausted. And so that and the fact that he was able to play as many games as he was, and he was able to be a finalist for the Gold Glove Award over at third base just sort of shows, even though the bat wasn't what you would normally expect from Yohan, he was gamed. And he gave that effort day in and day out. And so if he can get back to that standard, that 315 average that he had in 2019, the home runs, the laying off, the cut down the strikeouts, he did everything. He lived up to what everyone had as far as those expectations were in 2019. We talked to him the other day, and he said, "You know what? I feel better than 2019." So he's going into this season really confident, and it's showing at the plate, right? I mean, he's been able to do just about anything. The other day, they were playing the Brewers, and he fouled one off the inside of his leg, and he was down in pain for a little bit, and he got back on up, and he hit one like to the moon the next pitch. So here's someone who is he's locked in and he's ready to go.
Listen, it's a small sample size, but you mentioned Jerry Narin, and it's not really been a coaching position. It seems like they filled in the past, but really, I want you to talk a little bit about Narin, but really, I'm fascinated with Ethan Katz. Of course, being a White Sox fan, we all have love for Don Cooper. But just from everything that happened 2 seasons ago with Lucas Giolito, you kind of hope that we ended up with this guy and he could use his magic, or I know it's not magic, but he can use his training on all these other players. So how's the difference been, in particularly between Ethan Katz in this small sample size and Don Cooper, what you saw in the last couple of seasons?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, obviously with Coop, veteran, just really, really well respected throughout the entire game. And so, they just always the longstanding guy with the White Sox. But with Ethan coming on in here, sort of getting a fresh look at some of these guys. He's been working really closely with Dylan. He's been working really closely with Carlos Rodon, and you've seen some of those early results starting paying off. And Rodon said the other day, it's like, you got to give credit to Coop. He was very good with me, but with Ethan, we've done some things as well, and so far it's paying off. And so you're seeing some of the benefits of this change so far early on with both those guys, and those two guys will be key, right? I mean, as far as we were talking about earlier, you expect, what you're going to get from Giolito, what you're going to get from Dallas Keuchel, what you're going to get from Lance Lynn, and so like the key, can someone like Dylan Cease cut down on the walks? And so today he had, I think, 11 strikeouts and no walks, and so that is exactly that's it. And this is someone with all the potential in the world, right? But he was, I think he led the American League in walks last season in the shortened season. So if he knows that fastball command is crucial for him, and so when he's locked in like he was today, that is just such a strong weapon to have at the number 4 spot. And then with Rodon, here's someone who was non-tendered in December, and so there's is he going to cut? The thought process was his time at this White Sox was over, right. But he got the call to come on back. He was in competition with Ronaldo, and he won that competition because of what he was able to do on the mound throughout the entire spring. He's been fantastic. He was fantastic this entire spring. And so him in that 5th role, if they can get, Dallas Keuchel the other day said, this is the Rodon that we're seeing right now is the guy that the Sox drafted, anticipated and drafted. And so obviously, you can't expect night in and night out to have those type of performances from anybody 1 through 5. You might have a little bit of a slip up, but if these guys can carry that momentum that they've built this spring, that's going to send this team to another level. And that's another thing that can help them even without Eloy. It might be a situation where before this team would be expected to, or would plan to try to outbash a team. Now they can get a situation where it might be a few more closer games than having those starters, because we haven't even gotten to the bullpen yet. But having those starters in the mix, that goes a long way with the type of talent they have throughout that rotation.
Kill Dave was lucky enough to be talking to LaMond Pope from the Chicago Tribune. Listen, I got a question for you, all right? And you brought up Dylan Cease, and correct me if I'm wrong. and of course the team's going to go for the player that they want the most. But if you had your druthers, would you have given up Cease or Dane Dunning in the Lance Lynn trade?
I mean,
and I know you have to go in that clubhouse sooner or later, but
no, I mean, I think the fact that we've Dylan. I would say I probably would have kept Dylan from the standpoint of we've seen him, right? We know that there's the potential with Dane. He's got all the potential in the world, and the Rangers got a really good one in Dane Dunning. But I think with Dylan, like if everything can click, again he's someone who can be one of those top tier type pitchers. If he has all the tools in the world, and so just everything just needs to start clicking. And so, and that's the case. The fact that he has, even in the playoff game, right? We saw him come on in game 2, an unfamiliar role out of the bullpen, and he had the clean inning. So here was someone, he started all season long, been demoted to the bullpen. They weren't going to use him for game 3. And the situation was, when he was called upon in the bullpen for that game 2, he got the job done. And so those are some positive signs, that just sort of having that makeup and having those tools. And like I said, it's all about just clicking and coming together for Dylan. And I think that he can, the sky's the limit for him.
Listen, the bullpen is full of heat. Last year's bullpen was nice, and this bullpen, it seems even sweeter. When you look at Michael Kopech and Garrett Crochet, but listen, and Liam Hendricks. But what do you think of those guys so far this spring training? But in particular, who do you expect is going to get that last bullpen spot?
Let's see. Let's start with the second question there. It's going to be Jose Ruiz. It was either going to be Ruiz, Ryan Burr, and then Nick Turley. Those are the 3 that were sort of competing for that final spot. Turley, they ended up designating for assignment today. Burr has been dealing with a little bit of an injury, and he also was reassigned today as well. And so it's going to be Ruiz as that final spot guy. And one thing that La Russa said the other day is that Ruiz can be flexible from that standpoint. So he's going to be that final bullpen guy from that standpoint. As far as just what I've seen from, let's start with Liam. First off, he's someone who is a character. he is fun for us to talk to. He actually enjoys talking with us, which is always great as well. But more importantly for Sox fans, he can get the job done. He's got a great fastball, and he's just sort of his transformation, his growth and his ability, what he's been able to do the last couple of years with Oakland, just phenomenal. And the fact that here's someone who wants the ball. He said, in his introductory press conference, he wants to be on the mound 81 games. We'll see what happens if that is the case. Yeah. But or 81 innings. So it's like, but he wants the ball, and he wants to go 2-3 days in a row, and things of that nature. But the thing is, with this bullpen, you don't have to. You have a situation where you have a Cody Hoyer who can come on in if you need a day off. You have a situation where you have an Aaron Bummer who can come on in when you have a day off. If you need we mentioned Crochet, obviously coming on in, throwing that 100-mile-per-hour heat, nasty. And his slider was just I remember a game earlier this spring against the Rangers. He came on in and he just was dropping like the Rangers, the lefties had no chance. It was like just take your bat and go back to the dugout. So and then you add in Kopech, another one, 100 miles per hour as well, with again all the potential in the world. So it's a situation where you get to the 5th inning, and this is obviously it's one of La Russa's strengths, right? Is what he was able to do with Oakland all those years and with the Cardinals, just mix and match guys out of the bullpen. I mean, he was revolutionary with the A's particularly. So the fact that he's going to have all of these different kind of guys to go to, you can go to. Evan Marshall had a terrific spring. So from the 5th inning on, you don't anticipate. You anticipate like Lance Lynn or Lucas to go into the 6th or 7th. But if you need someone after the 5th, you can go Crochet, then Kopech, then Hoyer, then Bummer, then Hendricks to close on out. I mean, and night after night after night, they all bring something different as well. But they do bring the heat. That's one thing for sure.
You've made the Eloy loss feel a little bit better, LaMond. So Lastly, I want to ask you, if you can, give me the LaMond Pope Pagoda predictions for the AL Central. I saw something on ESPN today, and they had Minnesota winning, and they only had the Sox getting like 84, 83 wins. And I was like, oh, no, not this year. But where do you expect – who do you expect one to win this division? And I guess where do you expect Minnesota to end up after the Sox take first?
Yeah, we did our predictions, and we had the in the Tribune, and I did have the Sox first, but everything was due before the Eloy injury. But I still think that's going to be the case. I still think that they have enough talent on a day-to-day basis, and that they learned enough from last season that even though it was only a 60-game season, the fact that they had that late fade in the regular season, and the fact that they really do believe that they should have won that wild card series against the A's as well. So those are motivating factors for this ball club. So I do think that there's enough talent there, and I do think that they will win the division. I think Minnesota will finish second, and I think they'll be in the playoffs as well. So I think that both those teams are going to make it. I think Cleveland, even though Cleveland suffered some,
still got pitching.
You never count out.
Still got pitching.
And from the Sox standpoint, you expect the Royals. They made a bunch of moves in the offseason as well. They got some veteran guys. They added Santana, and some other veterans in the mix as well. And obviously the Tigers with the new manager with AJ Hinch. And so what the Sox, obviously they dominated the series against the Royals. They dominated the series against the Tigers last season. You don't expect them to go 9-1 like they did against both those teams last year. But they do have to have if you're going to be that team that's going to win this division and going to be a team that can possibly contend beyond, you're going to have to handle those type of teams to get to that position where you can win this division.
Look, you throw somebody's name out, and I have to ask you this: were you a never AJ Hinch guy when the managerial position was open, or were you like, hey, he's kind of little, it's not bad?
No, yeah. I'm always one of those guys that. If the situation would have arose and that would have been their guy that they would have went to, I wouldn't have had any issue from that standpoint as well. The fact that they won, right? He has that experience of winning as well, and I think that's the bottom line from that standpoint.
That's all I need to hear. I feel the same way. LaMond, I always appreciate it. Be safe, man. I look forward to talking to you in another couple of weeks, bro.
All right, great talking to you, and enjoy opening day.
You too.